Shalom Hebrews. I'm gonna just do this little short video. You know, it kind of pissed me off real bad when when them Jews. It really shouldn't piss me off, but it do. But how those Jews man embrace the Ethiopian Jews. You know what I'm saying? And got hundreds of them. Coming in to the promised land, and how them folks ain't never thought one time we been hollering we the real Israelites over here, and people from the transatlantic slave trade that's in the western hemisphere that was affected by the transatlantic slave trade. We say that we are the Israelites, and we've been saying this for a long time, but the Jews say that you have to come off one of them African tribes that practice Judaism, and maybe that we might be, Israelites from that way. Cut. How about the Israelitebrotherhood prove all the time that how we are the Israelites from the Babylonian wars, and how the enemies, the people that's in control of our heritage, never mention the Israelites going into Africa during the Babylonian wars, and we saying that we are them. We saying that we are the Israelites that broke the covenant in the book of Jeremiah, being that they got all this other history, man, about the Israelites attached to these other peoples that don't mention the Babylonian wars or breaking the covenant. And we saying that we are them. We saying that we are the Israelites that broke the covenant and ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars. So, that's something that can't be disputed. Now, how about that they embrace these Ethiopian Jews with open arms? Man, when I'm talking about with open arms, man, they fly them in. Man, you know what I'm saying? Them Ethiopians kissing the ground, man, and got the Jewish flag up, and you know what I'm saying, and having a good time, and they having a big old party. And then how about that we can easily prove that the Ethiopian Jews are not Israelites, and that they come off the Edomite tribes that converted to Judaism, that lived, man, around the Red Sea area, man, from the Black Sea and then the Red Sea, all around this was Edom's territory. You see what I'm saying? All this was Edom's territory. It's like I got a map right here. You see, it's a map of the promised land. And then you see, Edom was down back here in the back. And then how about, that the Edomites, man, had converted, they've been converted. Had our heritage since the Babylonian wars. And then how that, they started getting recognition from the trade routes eventually, when the Sephardi's start going into the Arabian Peninsula to do trade, because they had ancient tribes. Edom had tribes that had technology and could build things and sold crafts and little daggers and, man, all kind of stuff, and it's like Yemen is Temen. I'm gonna show you this, and that's Eliphaz's son, and it's like the Arab, the United Arab Emirate, in the Yemen, the Oman, that's Omar. Oman is Omar. All those are Eliphaz, Edom's sons, and Edom's descendants were, along with the Ishmaelites, they would all mix and become one, would occupy the whole Arabia Peninsula, would be their home. Men, as well as the Ammonites would mix with them, and Jordan and the Moabites would get consumed by the Edomites and the Ammonites and the Amorites. So all these folks will be all the Semitic peoples, the mixed peoples that look like Arabs. That's, you know what I'm saying, that's over there. And then how about that they would convert, men, countless different kind of ways and times throughout history, but the most famous one was when John Harnicus converted the Edomite tribes, forced conversion in 130 BC. So we know that the Edomite tribes are officially converted to Judaism 130 BC, but we know it go all the way back to the Babylonian wars when they occupied our land after we real Israelites was chased, out the promised land into Africa by the Scythians, Ashkenaz, but how these folks had converted to Judaism, them Arab tribes, and man, I'm talking about can't nothing change that. Nothing can change them converting to Judaism, and how they had a whole lot of tribes and peoples that converted to Judaism. You know what I'm saying? After the Israelites were destroyed, and especially after the exiles were destroyed by Greek times, then all you started to get is Edomite and Sephardi history. And then, you get many little bits and tats of the Ashkenazi history, but they was mostly on quiet till the Romans come in. But this dude right here converted all the Edomite tribes. All the Edomite tribes, man, and they'll even tell you, man, see, you got to know what you're looking for when dealing with, the Jews' history, because they're real evasive, man, and they're real slick, because you dealing with two Jewish groups that's giving two different accounts of the same events. And man, sometimes you got to weed through the truth, but the truth is there, because they'll tell you, one gonna tell you, other one gonna tell you. You just got to keep looking around. But look, Harnicus also initiated a military campaign against the Edomites. During this campaign, Harnicus conquered such and such and Edom towns, a whole bunch of towns. And Harnicus then instituted forced conversion on the Edomites to Judaism. See, so this in 110 BC, and then we know that a whole lot of Jewish tribes start popping up in the Arabian Peninsula, all the way down to Sinai. That's in Yemen. Real important about Yemen, the Temenite Jews, because they would go over into Eritrea in Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Gondar. Look, you see Gondar right there. That's where the Yemenite, Edomite tribes would go to, and they would conquer this whole little area around here, but would be in the Edomite Jewish people's hands until Islam came. Now they little different tribes that converted to Christianity and so forth. They would fight to them and convert them into Judaism, or sometimes the Christian branch gonna be the ones that's hooked up with Ashkenaz and then got into the picture and doing trade. And you know how the Greeks, man converted the Ethiopians to Christianity and so forth. So Ashkenazi gonna be hanging out in there. And then I got some history showing that this dude named Bar David from the Ukraine, from up here, come after the Khazar Empire was kind of like busted up. How the dude Bar David come from up here in Ukraine, and and then how he come all the way down through here, through Armenia, and then went on to the Promised Land, and then went on to Egypt, and then went down to the Sudan, and this is a Khazar, and then went over to Ethiopia and got him a woman, and then took her back up, to Ethiopia, to Ukraine, and then they will have kids, and they kids and kids associated with them, and a lot of Ethiopians were mixed during the Byzantine Empire, in Turkey, the Theodores and Theodores, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna be the Ethiopian strain, and then how that they descendants will rule all over Europe, and then how the Israelites today will see pigmented people on crescents, not understanding that the Sephardim, or that the Jews from the Megaherb, as well as other pigmented peoples, lived in Europe and ruled and had crescents and all kind of images that they left, that we Hebrews are discovering, swapping down, that them peoples are Israelites when they weren't not Israelites. They were not Israelites. They was Hamites, the Arabian Hamites, and man, all kind of pigmented peoples lived up in Europe, because wherever Islam went, that allowed the Sephardims to go, and Sephardims might have a deep degree of pigmentation, and those be the peoples that the Israelites sweeping down were Hebrew Israelites. I think I might can hustle up an image. In the image, let's see. It's rough, I didn't prepare, you know what I'm saying, to be just talking about them. But let's see if we got an image somewhere. Them people, had pigmentation, and then they was called Sephardim. Here we go. Man, all blessed. We got a picture. See, they would be all up in Europe. They would be all up in Europe and in Africa, in Yemen, and then these type of folks went over into Ethiopia. You see what I'm saying? You see the trade routes. Look, you see the trade routes all through Ethiopia, all through the Horn of Africa. Those are Sephardims. And they traded all around the Red Sea. All around the Red Sea. All around here. All around the Red Sea. And then those Jewish tribes would go over into Ethra, and into northern, what they call northern Ethiopia, and then they would live there, and then those would be the Falashas, the Jews that the Jews are taking. They would be Jews that the Jews are taking, because they are kindred to them through the Sephardim. You know what I'm saying? And through the Edomites over in Yemen, and through the Arabian Peninsula, and then that would connect them to the Sephardims, and then how that they bringing them in. You know what I'm saying? And being that they mix with the Ethiopian Christians at time, and how Ashkenazi had some DNA with the Greeks, share the same DNA because they are Japhets, and then how that the Ethiopians would be mixed in with them too, so they share the same DNA, and then now they taking them back to the promised land. Been doing it for a long time, and then we Hebrews be seeing this, man. Like me, man, I be like, dang, man, it's messed up how they take all these different folks to the promised land, but we know that why they doing it, because they ain't taking the real Israelites, and they ain't never invited the ones that's living in the desert there, helped us in any kind of way. But look here, how they bringing them Ethiopian Jews in, and then it's like a mockery to us. It's like they spitting in our face, you know what I'm saying? And then how they bringing them there, and then giving them and treating them good, you know what I'm saying? Look, hundreds of Ethiopians. This just recently done. Look, hundreds of Ethiopian migrants arrived on Thursday to a festive ceremony at the Jewish International Airport, as the government took a step toward carrying out its pledge to reunite. Hundreds of families split between the two countries. Some 300 people landed on the Ethiopian airline flight, with many waving flags and stooping to kiss the ground as they steamed off the aircraft on a red carpet. Many dressed in traditional Ethiopian robes, and many women held babies in their arms. Festive Hebrew songs were blasted over loudspeakers. Men, the Jewish community, and then invited the men with open arms. Men with open arms. Now look here. Now we know that this is said. We know that this is said, and we can see this, and we know that the Jews in the Himyarite and Libya and all those folks that they've been bringing in fit into this right here. Fit into this right here. And the Persian Jews, the Libyan Jews, you know what I'm saying? They've been bringing all them in. Look, Persia, Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? Look, and this is Ezekiel 38. In the word of the Elohim came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Machich and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, This said the Elohim Yah, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Machich and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all then army horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers, shields, all of them handling swords, Persia, Ethiopian, Libya with them, all of them with shields and helmets, Gomer and all his bands, and the house of Togarmah and all the north quarters, and all his bands, and many peoples with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou and guard unto them for many days, and thou shalt be visited in the latter years. Thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, which the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. You know, we know that spells destruction for them. And then how did they bring in the Ethiopians and all those folks in, just like prophecy say? Now let's go look at the Ethiopian Jews. You know what I'm saying? This is what they gonna come off the Himyarites. The Himyarites. You know, that's gonna be where the Ethiopian Jews come from. You know what I'm saying? And then some of them lived in Edom. That's in lower southern Yemen. You see Edom right there? Eden. That's what them Jews was, and all around here. You know what I'm saying? Them Edomite Jews, and then they would, because it's easy to get over into Africa right here, and then this is where they would be at, all up in here, and especially over here. You know what I'm saying? This is where all the Ethiopian Jews would, congregate and live. The Edomite Jews, you know what I'm saying? They mix with the Ethiopians and how they become one. And then I'm gonna show this. All right, look, the history of the Jews in the Himyarite stretch back to ancient times. All right, not them, but you see how these Jews was in the Yemen land. You know what I'm saying? The history of the such. All right, these are the Jews located some 95 miles north of Medina in present-day Saudi Arabia. So these Edomite Jews, men, would be right here. You know what I'm saying? This is where these Edomite Jews would be. You know what I'm saying? Just a few, yards from there. And look, the United Arab Emirates are Edomites. Then converted to Islam, but at first they practiced Judaism and so forth, and other different pagan religions. But how did they convert it to Islam? But how that they are a united Edomite families and stuff that represent all them folks. All right. So we see how, look, the Jews of Hadranah were much more isolated than their counterparts in Edom, but all around the Yemen and stuff, and around them parts that connected to Ethiopia, men, is where they hung out. All right, and then let's see, men, about the Himyarites. Well, one of the Ethiopian leaders, men of the Exum, his name was Ezna, and then he was the king he was the king over the Himyarite kingdom, and then this is where the Ethiopian Jews come from. These are Edomites, and them come from Saudi Arabia. The Himyarite kingdom, or Hammer, historically referred to as the Himyarite kingdom by the Greeks and the Romans, was probably in the southern highlands of Yemen, in the southern highlands of Yemen, as well as the name of the region. You know what I'm saying? And that's where they're gonna be over there. They gonna go off into Ethiopia, and that's where this dude Esna was king over over the Hamites. You see, all right, unvocalized spelling. Esna such a ruler, the Oscum and kingdom. Let me see, ancient kingdom centered in what is now Ether. See, in ancient kingdom is what is centered to now is Ether in the Tigray region of northern Ethiopia. You know, and this he was king of the you know what I'm saying? He was king of them Jews, them Hamite Jews, and he was part of them. That was in his family tree. And then look, you see what Ether at. Look, you see Ether. And then that's where them Edomite Jews and you know what I'm saying, that they done took to the promised land, that they call Ethiopian Jews, but they're Edomites, you know what I'm saying, because they come off the Edomite tribes from Yemen. And then that dude Esna, you know what I'm saying, brung them there too, and how he was king, you know what I'm saying, and then how that they had war and stuff with the different Jewish tribes, which was older, and it makes sense why they would have war, because you know you got the Greeks, man, the Greeks there that's gonna be kind of like kicking it with Ashkenazi, and then you know they got Christianity there, and then you got Judaism there that come from the Sephardi's, the Edomite Jews, the Sephardims. So they gonna be fighting and stuff, and that's what the wars be about. I tell you that they be having proxy wars and stuff. They be having proxy wars. You know, they be having proxy wars. You know, and this dude, he would launch, you know, all kind of campaigns. You know what I'm saying, against the Christians and make them convert, and then they would come back, you know what I'm saying, with some power, and then they would make them convert, and then that would go on and on, you know what I'm saying, backwards and forth. But the Eshkimites, the Eshkimites come from the Hamites that come from Yemen and the Saudi Arabia Peninsula. They are Edomites. All right, and then let's look some more. All right. Look, all right, let's see what this say, man. I had a little something that was right here. Let me see if I can find it. Them old Edomite tribes, man, they inviting them back to the promised land. Look, all right. Because of Yemenite Jewry's cultural affiliation with Babylon. So that's going to be the Sephardims, the Sephardi's that was placed in Samaria in 722 BC. Let's look up some of this in the Tanakh too, so we could, you know, have a little Tanakh, you know, connection with it. If you go to Second Kings, chapter 17, verse 24. All right, 17. All right. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuddar, and from Abel, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So, you know, them gonna be the Sepharvims, who is the root word for Sephardi, Sephardic, and Sephardim. And then they would mate with the Edomite tribes, as shown that John Harnack's force converted all the Edomite tribes to Judaism. So then they would all be one. Men up in here, they would all be one up in here, and then the Edomite tribes were spread on down here, men, to Yemen. You know what I'm saying? Let's look up, man. Let's look up some of this. Let's see what the little history say that they got on this. All right. So we know, man, the Yemenite. Look, because of the Yemenite Jewry culture affiliation with Babylon, such as his points that the Jews of Yemen migrated to Yemen from places in Babylonia. Now that's deep right there. And then them will be the same ones, the Himyarite kingdom. That's them. And then how that they would go settle in Ethiopia. So the Ethiopian Jews are kind of like, man, some Babylonian Jews too, in a sense, if you really kind of break it down and boil it down. And then that's why they would be accepted back. You know, that's why they would be accepted back. And then that's why you don't see no curses on the Ethiopian Jews. Look what it say. All right. So it won't be no misunderstanding. All right, because of the Yemenite Jewry and cultural affiliation in Babylon, such historian opinions that the Jewry of Yemen migrated to Yemen from places in Babylonia, which I already, you know, saying, they Edomites. Archaeological records referring to Judaism in Yemen started to appear during the rule of the Himyarite kingdom. See, those are where the Ethiopian Jews are from. Them, they just settled in Ethiopia. Man, I just showed you how Ezra, they king, was king over the Yemenites and all the rest of them. Look, the Yemenite kingdom established in Yemen in 110 BC. This is going to be about the same time that John Harnicus did the conversion. Look, you see, he did the conversion. Look, and John Harnicus' first conquest was invasion of the Transjordan in 110 BC. So, man, around here, look, around here, he done went and forced, man, converted these folks here. All this is Edom territory. All this is Edom territory overlapping the Ammonites. And then he would convert them, and then look, Edom must have had took over the Ammonites. Man, if he, you know what I'm saying, man, converted the people, man, on the west of the Jordan and stuff. So, you know, look, that's Ammon, that's Ammon, that stands for Ammon, that's their capital. And then how, look, man, Jerusalem right next to them, they real slick. And then them Edomites, and then how that they would, you know, convert. And then we all know Medina was one of the Edomite Jewish strongholds. And then we know that, you know, Muhammad would think that those Edomite Jews were the original Israelites. So any religion that is created off them gonna be false. Gonna be false. Alright, now look here. Let's see. Look. So we know that 130 BC, you know what I'm saying? 110 BC, man, they was already full-blooded converted, and then how they went over into Ethiopia, and then how did they come from Babylonia. Babylon, but it ain't nothing but the Sephardims. Man, it ain't nothing but the Sephardims. You know what I'm saying? Alright, now let's look around some more. Alright. Man, let's get that term Yemen. Yemen, Edom. Edom. The term is also traditionally used in biblical Hebrew as the synonym of the direction of the south. South was applied to being used as the Hebrew name of Yemen. See? Temen is Yemen, whose Arabic name is Yemen, due to its location in the southern end of the Arabian Peninsula. You know what I'm saying? That's where that's Eliphaz's son. That's Eliphaz's son, and they converted to Judaism as well as Islam and Christianity. But how did they was Edomites, whether they was Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, they were still Edomites. And then how did they would go over into Africa? And then you even have the Limba tribes. I wish I'd have pulled it up from down in Zimbabwe, seeing that they from Sana. And then they gonna have false history talking about that the prophet Ezra chased them there and wouldn't let them come back to the promised land. Some old mess, man. Whenever our history fell into the Babylonian scribes' hand, you're gonna have 1,000 different versions of the Israelite history in all these different lands and these different peoples, because they conducted different histories for each and every one of those folks. You know, all right, look, Temen, Temen, Temen. It is traditionally used in the biblical, man, it's a synonym for the direction of the south. All right, you know what I'm saying? And I read this twice, but let's go look some more. All right, Temen. I mean, they gonna tell you, but you got to know what you're looking for. See, look, Temen refers to Temen or Temen, Hebrew for Yemen, homeland of the Temeni or Temeni, the Yemenite Jews, and them gonna be the Jews that went over into Ethiopia, into Eritrea, and Gondar. You know what I'm saying? Northern Ethiopia, and stayed there. And them the ones that they bringing to the promised land. And they gonna tell you that it's them too. I'm gonna read some of the history from the news clipping. Look, in the book of Genesis, Temen is a son of Eliphaz. Temen is a son of Eliphaz, eldest son. Esau's eldest son, Temen. Look, got Edom right next to it. Then you know that they one in the same, partner. Look, an Edom clan in ancient biblical town in Arabia, Petra, but it's in Arabia. See, them gonna be Edomites. Temen was the name of the Edomite clan of its according to the biblical and ancient biblical town of Arabia, Petra. But you know this mean that they there. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, they free to move wherever they want to. They ain't just got to stay in one spot. The Edomites ain't got to stay in one spot in their inheritance. They can move all around the Arabian Peninsula and everywhere else as they did. And then they went over into Ethiopia. And those would be the Falashas. Those would be the Falashas today. Their roots come from them, as I'm showing. As I'm showing. All right, man, I'm showing you that their roots come from them. Man, their roots come from them. Ain't no getting around that. Ain't no getting around that. You know, ain't no getting around that. So Yemen is Temen. Ain't no question about that. Yemen is Temen. Yemen is Temen. And then they got Temenite Jews. Yemen is Temen. Temen is Yemen. Who and what is Temen? Temen or Yemen. You know, and then that's where the Ethiopian Jews come from there. You know what I'm saying? They come from there. And they gonna be some Sephardims mix. And then, you know, them Ethiopian Jews are being welcomed back. Welcome to the promised land. It ain't no welcome back. Joining they kindreds. Look, all you know what I'm saying, although these families of the Jewish descent and many are practicing Jews, you know what I'm saying, them Jews do not consider them Jewish under religious laws. Instead, they are permitted to enter the country under a family, you know what I'm saying, but they're going to be embracing Judaism and going to the synagogues and going to join army and do everything else. You know what I'm saying? And then let's see where they got these folks from. Look, activists in Ethiopian Aliyah, a group promoting family unification, estimates that some 7,000 Ethiopian Jews, some thousand Ethiopian Jews remain behind in Ethiopia, some of whom have been waiting for years to join their family. Like I said, not one time have they ever asked the people from the transatlantic slave trade, who are the real Israelites, if they ever wanted to come home or be cool with us in some kind of way men and help us. But you see how they, embrace them Ethiopian Jews. Man, I just showed you why. It's because they come from the Yemenite Jews. The Yemenite Jews went over into Ether, and then from there, man, they would, go all off into Africa and stuff. Some of them even went over, went to the Igabus. That ain't no far distance and stuff. And then right over to Nigeria. The Nigerian Jews, you know what I'm saying, come from them. And then how did them folks, kind of like all one, and them folks like kind of all one. So, when we Israelites be saying, uh, them our brothers and sisters over there in Ethiopia. But not one time had Ethiopian Jews ever tried to hook up with us and then make some type of connections and then say, yeah, we all one with them and how we all one in the same and how we need to be trying to be reunited and then how y'all can't do nothing without them. You don't have no African Jews telling them Jews over in the promised land that no, we not finna participate unless y'all help our brothers and sisters in the diaspora and that y'all call Negroes, blacks, African Americans. Ain't it strange how we real Israelites heritage fit the curses? Fit the curses. I'm talking about fit the curses outright. And then, we're the Israelites, as I have traced from the promised land into Africa. I got countless videos showing that our first derogatory name was Gramentian. And then how that we was enslaved. Man, how ain't nobody ever tried to help us in no kind of way. And we the real Israelites. But the people who ain't never been enslaved and then who the Jews had contact with, who they know that they got some type of affiliation with them, whether it's through trade routes, conversions, or whatever. But how did they connect it to them, and then how did they showing them some love? They ain't gonna show us no love, and we the real Israelites. That's why come I say that this Israelite issue gonna have to be settled because the Israelite Brotherhood showing truth. Man, the Israelite Brotherhood showing some truth. Man, that they ain't finna be able to get away from. And soon as the Israelites wake up, just like I just did a video, man, about the unidentifiable Israelite, man, that don't know heritage, how they holding us up. Them Israelites, man, that's the mindless Israelite that they can't comprehend nothing. They the ones that's holding us up because once we start to get, man, a little knowledge and start, man, to unite and then start, our voice start to be heard, man, them folks gonna have to answer, man. They gonna have to come on down. And then I pray that they come on down through the Israelite Brotherhood. All right, look. Jews of Western Africa, Himyarite descent, especially the Jewish community in Nigeria. Igbo, the Igabus of Himyarite, West African Jewish community in Nigeria, also claim descent. Also claim descent from the Yemenite, Moroccan, and East African Jewish communities. Megaharan, Mescaharim, Temen, those are the Yemenite Jews. Sephardim, Limba, Ethiopian Jews, Beta Israel. Those are the ones that come from the Himyarites, are they original parent stock. It's just that they went across the Red Sea and lived in Etra and Gundar, you know what I'm saying, northern Ethiopia. And then how did those Edomites? Ain't nothing gonna change that. And then this is how you know that they Edomites is because they haven't lost their heritage. Now, it's no way of getting around not losing your heritage when the covenant was broken. And I show over and over that we had a deep affiliation, affinity with Egyptian religion and how we couldn't leave it alone and how the whole Israelite nation abandon the covenant for Egyptian religion. You know, I'm gonna show that. So that'll be sealed in. You know, if you go to Jeremiah chapter 44, I almost turned right to it. You know, but let me read how the covenant was broken. Man, if the covenant was broken, then there was no way to fix it. You know, that calls for curses. Man, it calls for curses if the covenant is broken. You know, if the covenant is broken and then we get kicked out the land, and then, man, it's over with. Let me see. All right. This is Jeremiah, 11. This is during the Babylonian wars. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We was, all finna run into Africa. You know, they killed King Josiah. The Egyptians did put us back on Egyptian religion. And then, our end had came, as prophet Ezekiel had said. Look, the word that come unto Jeremiah from the Elohim, saying, hear ye the words of this covenant, and speak unto the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and say unto them, Thus said the Elohim, Yah of Israel, cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant, which I command your fathers in that day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, from the iron furnace, saying, Obey my voice, and do them according to all which I command you. So shall ye be my people, and I will be your Yah, that I may perform the oath which I have sworn unto your fathers, to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, as it is this day. Then answered I and said, So be it, O Elohim. Then the Elohim said unto me, Proclaim all these words in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, saying, Hear ye the words of this covenant, and do them. For I earnestly protested unto your fathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, even unto this day, rising early, protesting, saying, Obey my voice. Yet they obeyed not, nor inclined their ear, but walked every one in the imagination of their evil heart. Therefore I will bring upon them all the words of this covenant which I command them to do, but they did them not. All the words of the covenant gonna be the curses that prophet Moses outlined. If the covenant was broken, how you would lose your heritage, be shipped to a strange land, and wither away in your enemy's land. And we know that once covenant was broken, that it was impossible for the Israelites to even claim an Israelite heritage up off the land. It just don't work like that. But some kind of way that these peoples who claim an Israelite heritage think that we was gonna be stupid forever, and that how that they can't claim no Israelite heritage up off the land. It just don't work like that. You can't do no covenant up off the land. And this is the strange thing, being that them Ethiopian Jews was right next to the promised land, right next to the promised land, right next, or skip and hop up the river. They can get in a boat, man, and paddle up the Red Sea to the promised land in no time. But yet how them folks real close to the promised land, but yet how none of them left. None of them left to go return to the promised land. And then they claiming the Israelite heritage, supposedly knowing that they from these parts, but yet they have to sit to somebody come get them, but they that close. Man, that stuff is crazy, and they can't keep deceiving the world with them lies and so forth like that. We don't work like that, man. It's too close for them people not to be trying to get up there, man, and get into the promised land and stuff, and how they wait 600 years later for somebody to come get them, and they that close. We Israelites don't function like that. We don't function like that, and that's why Almighty Yah had us took into a strange land in captivity, surrounded by water. Man, it almost got to be by Almighty Yah that we leave up out of here, man, and then get back across all that water to over here, and then got to go across the whole Africa, man, to get to the promised land. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how you know that them folks ain't no Israelites, and that they gonna have to be off the Edomites that got our heritage. They gonna have to be off the Edomites to get our heritage. Look, let's see. And Elohim said unto me, conspiracy is found among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They are turned back to the iniquities of their forefathers, which refused to hear my words. And they went after other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant, which I have made with their fathers. Therefore, this saith the Elohim, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry out to me, I will not hearken unto them. So how in the world did them folks, the Ethiopian Edomite Jews, were able to escape the curses? Simple. Is because they are not the children of Israel. You know, that's like, man, if you go to Jeremiah 44, you're going to see how we broke the covenant for Egyptian religion. So, you know, man, it's impossible for the peoples to have not been enslaved when the covenant was broken for Egyptian religion. You know, the covenant was broken for Egyptian religion, man. If you go to Jeremiah 44, you know, Almighty Yah just showed you that the covenant was broken. I just showed you that he said that the covenant for Israel and Judah was broken. But if you go to chapter 44, and then you get down to verse 15, then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, we had been chased off the land. You know, the Ashkenazi come in and got us up off the land, just like Almighty Yah had said it was going to happen. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals and were well and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So, you know, we see it because we wasn't doing the Egyptian religion, is why the Babylonians was chasing us out the promised land. You know, we see it, that's the reason why these folks was coming into the land, you know, shooting arrows and stuff at us. It's because we wasn't in Africa doing the Egyptian religion. And then they still finding these arrows right now today. A whole bunch of them. They shot a whole bunch of them at us. So we know once up off the promised land that the curses is automatically activated. Automatically activated. You know, meaning if you go to Deuteronomy, mean it's gonna be 28, man, 28 2840 something, but the curse is instantly activated once you're up off the promised land, and then you going to worship another god. You can't even live in the other lands too long. Trouble's supposed to follow you. The people supposed to rob and kill you and torment you. You can't stay nowhere in Africa without being tormented, because the curse is coming after you. You can't hide. You can't hide from the curses. So how all these folks get to hide from the curses and then don't have no sufferings on them, and then the sufferings that they have are so minimal, and that how we in the transatlantic slave trade trade positions with them anytime. Look, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee. This is Deuteronomy 28:45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Elohim thy Yah, to keep his statutes and his commandments. No, so how in the world did they escape that? How did they escape? And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb among all the nations where the Elohim shall lead thee. So why come they ain't taken to all the nations? Why come the Ethiopian Jews wasn't taken to all the nations for slavery? And then they even got it in their history how they ain't never been enslaved and how did they skip slavery and so forth. And then if any of them was taken in slavery, they were sold to their people and possibly became leaders, men of that household. They got all kind of stories like that. But how these folks ain't never get enslaved? Because I just showed the covenant was broken during the Babylonian wars. It was over with for the tribe of Judah. And then I explained how the exiles from the Babylonian captivity was gobbled up by the Greeks. And then how that they couldn't make it. They couldn't make it. Impossible to have two covenants. One broken for Egyptian religion, the 99%, and then that little 1%, you know, that that was captured and taken to the Mesopotamian area. But look, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Elohim shall send against thee in hunger, in thirst, and in nakedness, and want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron meant upon thee neck until he have destroyed thee. The Elohim shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So why in the world that, they ain't going through that? Man, it's like I say, man, a real red shield is here. You know what I'm saying? And then I would like, if possible, if Ashkenazi was real smart, how they'll elevate the Israelite Brotherhood and then let us start making some noise and mean about all these converts that the Sephardi is making. Ashkenazi and Sephardi kind of might be realize that we Israelites is waking up and kind of like starting to be united. But then we know that Ashkenazi controlled the whole Jewish show. Ashkenazi controlled the Jewish way, and then that's been stated. I got plenty of videos, men explaining how Ashkenazi controlled the whole Jewish heritage, and how that's a done deal. You know what I'm saying? And how the Sephardi's lost, everything over to them. Lost everything over to them. But their whole literature and whole way of functioning and governing has fell into the Ashkenazi hand. And so they got to follow what Ashkenazi say. But I think they being slick because they go get all these African tribes and folks and then, bring them to the promised land. And then here we real Israelites in in captivity wanting to get to the promised land. And that how that it'll benefit them by bringing us to the promised land, because then it would shut the door. It would settle the Israelite issue. If the Ashkenazi Jews was to get some of us, the Israelite Brotherhood, and then, place us in the promised land, and then how that'll settle the Israelite issue. And they could say that they got everybody from all around the world, and how we'll sit in the promised land and be quiet and won't bother nobody. We won't make no noise. We won't even challenge them folks, man, on their Israelite heritage, man. If they got us and took us to the promised land, we'll be so happy to have sovereignty and not have nobody over us that we'll leave them folks alone. We leave them folks alone. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I might need to go back over this again so you Hebrews know without a shadow of a doubt that the Ethiopian Jews come from those Himyarites. The Ashken king was king over them all. And then how that Edom, Yemen, and Sinai, Etra, and all those places, men around the Red Sea on both sides, was home to the Edomite Jews, to the Edomite Jews that converted during John Hanukkah's time, as well as those that got our land during the Babylonian wars, as prophet Obadiah prophesied would happen. You know, prophet Obadiah prophesied that Edom would get, you know what I'm saying, our heritage. You know what I'm saying? The men and get our land. All right, let me see. Let's see if we can look some of this up. Let's see if we can look some of this up. All right. Yeah, Hebrews. They got our heritage. You know, Prophet Obadiah explained. All right, I turned right to it at first. Prophet Obadiah tell you how Edom would get the Israelites land, you know, and then if he said it, and then it come to pass. It actually come to pass during the Babylonian wars. So, you know, if them folks got our land and we ain't there, and then they go start converting folks all over, everywhere. Man, they start converting folks everywhere, turning everybody into Israelites. I got a book of a video about that, of how they turn Israelites, people into Israelites everywhere, all over, and then how that we Israelites got to stand up and start questioning these folks, man, about this Israelite heritage that they hold. But Prophet Obadiah prophesies how Edom would get our heritage, you know, would get our land, you know. In that day that thou stoodest on the one side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gate and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was as one of them. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou rejoice on the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked upon their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of the Elohim is near, and upon all the heathens. Look, so Edom got our land. Edom got our land, and Prophet Obadiah prophesied it happened, and it came to pass. And then them Sephardims, the Sephardics would convert all the Edomite tribes, and they would have Edomite Jews all throughout the Arabian Peninsula, way in Arabia, way before Christianity started. Way before Christianity started, man, almost probably about 150 years before Christianity started. And then how that those Edomite Jews would be all around, all over here, and then how that they would, man, be over here in Ephraim, and those will be the Philistines, the better Israel that we call today Israelites. But how that they are really Edomite Jews. You know, they Edomites, and ain't nothing gonna change that. And how that their history is here. Their history is here. They'll try to say that they come off Solomon time. You know, a lot of false history come up off Prophet Solomon's history, you know, because Solomon broke the covenant and caused us to sin by bringing those other religions into the land, and then, you know, letting the Egyptian religion sneak in on us through Jeroboam, and then how he caused the nation to fall, and then how they try to say that Solomon had peoples up off the land living, and then I say that that's false, because how we was in control of Tanakh history up to the Babylonian wars, and how that we didn't record no Solomon sending Israelites to live in other land. You know, that's impossible when we had to be at the temple 3 times a year, and then how you couldn't be living in no other lands. That's how you know that these folks is false, because they would be coming to the temple 3 times a year just automatically, being that was a part, man, of our culture from exiting Egypt, how we had to come 3 times to the temple. Man, it wasn't no getting around coming 3 times to the temple. That's just was part of the law, And then how we had to be a priestly nation and so forth, and had to stay at home so we wouldn't, be everywhere. Look, Genesis, this Exodus 23:17. Three times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Elohim. 3 times a year. Man, if you go to Exodus 34:23. Let's see, 34:23. Look. Thrice in the year shall all your male children appear before the Elohim thy Yah. You know what I'm saying? All right, 1 Kings 9:25. 1 Kings 9:25. Let's see what 1 Kings 9:25 say. Turn right to it. Ain't that something? And 3 times in the year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Elohim, and he burned incense upon the altar that was before the Elohim. So he finished his work. So Solomon making three pilgrimages to the temple a year. All the other Israelites gonna have to do the same thing. That's why come they switched in this party when they was bringing wood from Lebanon, how a crew went and stayed for a certain amount of time, and then they was relieved by another crew, so everybody could be at home at them 3 times a year. Now, why these folks ain't try to make it back to the promised land? Why they ain't been did it? And then to try to say that they left during Ezra time, during the Persian times, man, that's false. They'd had plenty times to try to make it back to the promised land. All of them. They in walking distance. They are actually in walking distance to the promised land. Man, it wouldn't take them a whole week, man, to probably get to the promised land. They can sail up the Red Sea real easy. Man, they could have sailed up the Red Sea real easy up to the Sinai, and they'd have been right there at the back door of the promised land. They could have did that, and then yet they ain't do this. Now, something ain't right. That's because they ain't Israelites, and it ain't in their heart to be Israelites, even though that they got our heritage. That's like now today, you got folks that rap that are not us and only rap just to make some money, and then as soon as they finish rapping, man, they putting on their country outfit and going back to the country bars. That's how they do it. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. We done showed where the Ethiopians come from. Ain't no getting around that. That's why come everybody need to support the Israelite Brotherhood. Support the Israelite Brotherhood. And maybe Almighty Yah bless me in a position to negotiate something with these folks, and then you Hebrews know I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna do the right thing. That's like on my Facebook page. I got some serious folks on there. Man, I got some serious folks on the Facebook page, and then how that them folks need to open their ears and try to understand what's going on, and let's settle this Israelite issue. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.